No turning back. We have our ancestors with us. We're going to continue to dance with them. Dreaming them. Calling them. Seeing them. We are becoming what we were.
It is part of that Mayan prophecies.
7 triangles of light.
Keep walking. You are the spirit of Unapu. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapu.
People who say that the gods made them from corn. They planned their lives according to the heavens. Well-versed in astronomy, using a sophisticated mathematics, they calculated the movements of the night sky thousands of years into the past and thousands of years into the future. They knew that the universe moved in cycles. Their lives were ruled by the rhythms of the natural world. Planting and harvesting, birth and death, just as the great tree of life emerges from the earth.
Always they're connected. Science and religion.
In dreams, we learn from the Maya gods when to plant and when to harvest, when to set the fire, and when to do the corn ceremony.
What we're digging up, what we're coming up with is part of our history. And the men that lived here are some of the greatest men we've ever had. And it's the fact that we're getting to know more and more and more about the life of these people.
They still maintain their customs. They still maintain their ways of organizing their societies. And it's very exciting to see how much of the ancient Maya way of life is still alive as well.
Because American history does not begin in 1492 with Columbus. It begins in 200 BC with the first Maya king who wrote his name on a stone. What is happening now is the people who made these places, people like Yashpak or Bird Jaguar or Fakal, are getting back their voices. They are becoming real to us and speaking to the people of the 20th century about who built this place and why and what they felt and what they thought about the world. These are not anonymous people anymore.
You are the spirit of Unapu. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapu.
Yo.
Las Aslan Natives Podcast, LA Natives Podcast. What's going on, people?
Lost Aslan.
Yo, shout out to all the early birds. It's already a packed house, Zero.
Yeah. Dope. Yeah, man, it's been a pretty cool, productive week. We've been working on a lot of merch. I'm wearing some of it. And yeah, man, we've been trying to get things done. You know, there's a lot of things happening. We started off the month. I mean, we ended off this month. You know, well, this whole month was busy because, you know, you do the Nemotemi, you welcome the Mexican New Year, and then you join the celebrations of that. And we just finished celebrating the one on the 25th at Sycamore Park in Highland Park, and I was able to perform, even though it was a bumpy experience.
And this was the Mexica New Year, right? The LA edition?
LA Mexica New Year. Shout out to all the performers that performed. Shout out to all the vendors that came to celebrate our understanding of springtime. And now we're here.
Shout out to Tochli out there in San Jose. You know, I'm sure you had a great event.
Man, Tochli always kills it with the Mexica New Year up there. But now we're moving into April, so with that being said, we got to announce the new show that the show that we've been putting together, me and Dakota Bear. We're finally going to get Jesus down here to Los Angeles. Well, I'm sure he's been here, but at least with the native the native community that we built with LA natives. So shout out to
That's a long time coming, for Dreezus to come out to Los Angeles, not just LA, man, but from what I heard, that venue is vicious. It's the one right there in the arts district of downtown Los Angeles.
Absolutely. We got it. It's right underneath the new bridge they built. So the experience is going to be super cool. They deserve it. They deserve to be highlighted in those areas, because we know what it means. Living in Los Angeles, you know what areas mean what, right, Armando? You get to play in the art district, private event. That's a big deal, And the land back, April 15th, land back in Los Angeles. This is a precursor. Right, this is a precursor to what we're working on in the fall, which is the Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, which is in October.
Right. So, me and Dakota Bear, his clothing company, obviously my Malinali Superfoods, decided to, put together a show that we felt like the people deserved, the unity show, which we try to promote. The best way to promote unity is to actually unite. And that's what I feel we're doing with this show.
This is a very important show right here, man, because Dakota Bear, personally, one of the hardest working artists I've ever met. He's super hands-on. I've never seen an artist so hands-on with his career.
Man, Dakota Bear is a professional. Like, he is on a mission, and that mission is to share his vision. Look at that. To me, that flyer right there, it looks pro, bro. You know what I mean? Like, there was some time put into that flyer, and highlighting some silenced voices, right? Because how many times do we get to a private event, art district? Right. How many times do we do that? And with quality artists.
So I think we're the ones that brought him out to the Catch One at the LA Natives event at our part 2, right? Right. That was a smash. And then we ended up collabing, doing Indigenous Peoples Day in East LA, man. And that was history in the making, Zero.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue. That's just the tip of the iceberg, man. That shows you that we are walking our path, man. And the path is to put down the guard when you're around your own people. Even though we'll have a bumpy road and some people will disagree with what we're doing.
Anyone watching?
It's okay, because they can do it on their own. You know what I mean? But don't hate on someone that's actually doing something.
Yeah. If you were at Indigenous Peoples Day, just go ahead and add it to the chat. I want to see who was there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool to know who was a listener and was at that event, because, that's full. Like, you're almost going full circle here. And we're really gonna, lobby and start right now, today, in the springtime for the fall, and hopefully we can get an individual like Superman or maybe I don't know. We have a lot of reach with people who can what do they call it? Draw. So,
but this was in 3 weeks' notice. Remember, it was 3 weeks' notice that we put everything together.
It's crazy because this is almost the same amount of time that we have for this show.
Yeah, and so remember, Indigenous Peoples Day. What's great about it? It's a free all-age event, right, mm-hmm. Zero? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just come out and support the vendors and support all the artists that come out, man. Like the one we had over there at Malinali Superfoods. Shout out to the Malinali Superfoods for hosting it, man. Mm. It was just. It was like I was telling Zero, like the other day, I was chilling at a restaurant and I saw a lady rock a shirt. And I was like, yo, where'd you get that shirt? She was, yeah, I was just at this spot called Indigenous Peoples Day LA. I was driving by and I pulled over, supported it, bought the shirt.
Yeah. I'm
just like, man, that's love right there.
Everything's falling into place, and my partner had a meeting with the venue today and she had some really good suggestions and we're setting up for like maybe a June event, and then get it all the way through, get it all the way through the year, and send things off in a good way. Head-on's texting me. Hey, tell him to call me. Give me a second, guys. Sorry about that. This is cool because, we have live interaction, bro. There's people hitting me up. They know we're on the podcast and they want to give information. They want to be helpful. So let's give out the number. Give out the number, Armand.
Yeah. The phone number is 818-270-1844. It's right there on the screen. Feel free to call in.
But you know what? I had a really good performance at Mexica New Year, regardless of what happened on people trying to cut me off too soon or whatever it is. I'm humble, man. I have to be humble about, just being able to perform. So thank you for that. And sorry for the, individuals that couldn't see me or had to leave earlier or whatever that was. I know there was a couple friends that my son goes to school with. So we'll try to do that. This is why we're coming up with this event, Land Back and in Los Angeles, because the little kids want to come out and support, and we're going to try to put it in a time frame that accommodates the family, so. What happened? Somebody's called in? All right, we got a call. We got a call, my brothers. Let's do this. And anyone else who wants to chime in too, man, this is an open platform. This is not my platform. Tap your.
This event with Jesus and Dakota Pair coming up with Zero and the Sober Junkie, it's a very important event to me.
It's highlighting some individuals and putting the right promotion behind it. We don't always get that. Sometimes we get a canopy and a PA system, There's some attention being put to it, and there's some quality artists. I mean, Jesus has done some very big things. Jesus is not just anybody. Jesus is a professional artist, So is Dakota Bear. Dakota Bear has done some humongous things, and he continues to do things.
Hello, head on. Do you hear us?
Hello,
yo. What up, head on?
Oh, chilling, man. It's disappointing that I wasn't able to join the Mexica New Year this year, but I did see some live, and I saw you rocking up on stage, and I saw the other artists rocking it, and it looked good.
Cool, man. What happened? Where were you?
I just moved in with my partner, so we had the carpet being installed, and they were painting the walls, and I had to be here.
Ah, I see. Yeah. Well,
but head on. There's something about the flyer that you could speak on, right?
Yeah, right. So for me, I understand the flyer. I see that it says Land Back, right? And I understand it that as part of the campaign, the larger campaign of Indigenous people, and also the Dakota Bear with his campaign that he puts on his big colonial branding. In fact, we have a few hoodies and we have a few T-shirts that we have supported him, and we rock them as much as possible. In fact, we were rocking them today, and it always starts a good conversation wherever we're at. Today, I actually met this producer that works behind the scenes from one of the shows. It's called In Real Time with Bill Murr. So we're talking about, so I met one of the people, backstage that puts some of the shows together. They bring up ideas and topics, and I was telling him, why is Indigenous people always left out of the conversation? And he was like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And then, so we're talking about
there's an easy answer for that, though, bro. There's an easy answer for why we get left out. We're prisoners of war. Remember, before this was Mexico, right? But before Mexico, it was indigenous land. It was indigenous territories. They came with the war monster, and they destroyed and genocided everyone. That's the repercussion. It's not. Let's stop wondering why. Because
I'm not wondering at all. I'm with you. I get it. Like Masakin said, I love what Masakin puts it. He says the United States suffers from a black and white syndrome, where they just talk about very black and white issues and leaving brown people, indigenous people out of the conversation.
Because
the
there's
reason
too
I
much
asked
guilt
him-
there. There's
Now,
too much guilt
so-
there. There's too much. That's like, you know what that would be like?
But-
It would
but
be
Zero.
like it would be like a German, like the German people asking, the Jews to talk. They wouldn't invite that because it's so painful of a history. And
So Zero, let me get something straight. Does someone have an issue with the flyer or with it?
I'm not
saying
sure,
that?
is
Oh,
it?
so, I saw someone bring up a concern with not just this event, but events like this, and so that's what I was getting to. So to me, I'm just going to give out first what it means to me, right?
Sure.
Me being a fan of Dakota Bear and me being a strong advocate that all indigenous people should have land back, and this goes beyond the LA area. This goes beyond the United States. This goes beyond Turtle Island. I'm talking about from Canada all the way to Argentina, and then I'm talking about the Caribbean, Hawaii, and so on. Also including Palestine with that idea, that they should get their land back. Because I do see Israel as an illegal occupation, another settler like the United States. So that's what it means to me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I cannot speak of land back without also thinking of the people in which I reside in right now, right? So I have been building my relationship stronger with people of my surroundings. So I've gone to a few ceremonies where they're the ones who are facilitating those ceremonies, or it's an event that they're facilitating, or it's an invite that they've invited me to, and with multiple people, right? Either from Tongva or Kish, or even a Hashaman or Shumash. So I'm building my relationship stronger because that's part of, I believe, being indigenous, that we are to be good relatives to one another, right? And then with that, so on, relatives that come from other places. So when this, when the individual brought up this being an issue, that's what I believe. This is based on assumption that maybe there's an issue with the wording land back on it, and maybe they didn't get an invite, maybe they didn't get a heads up, and maybe it might become problematic. But I'm hoping that
there's
by
no
talking
problem.
about it,
There's no problem, bro.
Okay,
Come on, look.
good.
Let me clarify something. This is a hip hop concert. This is not a political statement. Like, we use land back strong language, of course, just like people use other things to do their propaganda for whatever they want to promote. This is not about. This is in general. And when you ask each and every one of those artists, what does it mean to be land back? Every one of those artists is going to give you a different answer. And if you want to ask me what land back is not no piece of paper that a white man's going to hand to you, or any elite of whatever color or whatever lineage, because we got to start thinking in that way too. It's not just white people. We always put that, the white people. There's some rich black people too. There's some rich Asian people too. There's some rich whatevers. That's what I mean. None of them are going to give you a land back paper that says, this is your land back and this is the way you should word it. I don't want to have issues with people over our artistic expression. And I understand, if you have an issue, if it's that much of an issue to you,
Come to the event.
come to the event. Don't come to the event, but don't talk bad about it. Because I hope that's not what's happening. Because I don't even know about this. I got a brief little thing, but I didn't want to go deep into it because this is not a non-issue. We talked to these people already. We talked to them and we said, it's not about what you think it's about. Right? And I understand we want to hand out roses to the people that were originally here. Great. I love it. Great. If you have an opportunity, amazing. But we have to I don't know.
This event is for all natives all across Turtle
everyone.
Island.
Like there's no exclusion and there's no disrespecting of any kind.
Dakota Bear represents something bigger
Yes.
than just the typical hip hop artist. Am I right, Head On?
Oh, for sure, and that's one of the reasons I'm a great supporter. My partner and I actually we both supported him and not only bumping his music, which man, if you haven't heard that track Circles with Jesus on it, oh man, that's a banger. That's a banger at the gym. It's a banger, while you're riding somewhere. It's just a banger all day long. And then if you're going through some stuff, there's another track. I forgot the name of it, but he talks about like it's kind of dark, but it's good. It's still uplifting.
Right.
I forgot the name of the track, but also I love that he really truly sees that unity between the North and the South. He looks at the colonial borders as what they are, colonial borders. So he's one of the artists that inspires to bring us together.
And I'm sure head on.
So then that's a good thing. I'm glad you said that because
and there's another big factor on why it's titled Land Back in Los Angeles. Like, doesn't people know that he has a label called Land Back Records?
Right. It's not what you think.
It's not what you think, right? Head on. It's like people they make a judgment and then they attack and then they try to make it public or have a issue about it because they're of a certain tribe or whatever. But yo, guys, like, bro, it's way bigger than what you guys think.
Yeah, this is his label. This is his record label. What else would you call it? Like,
what else?
What is it? Oh wait, I cannot say that in Los Angeles. No, dude,
that's
you can say that.
That's his brand.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't make sense.
Here's from a I would say from a outside point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I, as a fan, I know that his record label is called Land Back Records, right?
Okay.
He actually he made a dope track with Nug Life, right? While he was out here.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's really cool, that he's connecting with LA artists. He was part of Indigenous Day, with you. That was really dope,
Mm-hmm.
But for the people who are not as invested, they don't know that he has a clothing brand that's called.
But what does that matter though? Like, what does that? I don't get. Like, you can't be politically correct for everyone who is ignorant to whatever movement you're starting.
And whoever has an issue with the flyer, feel free to jump on the podcast and make it be known. Like, I would love people's insight.
Yeah, you have a free platform. This is not a thing that we're gonna block anybody's comments. And if you completely disagree, then you can completely disagree. No one is not acknowledging that this is Tongva land, Quiche land, Chumash land, indigenous land. No one's doing that. No one's doing that. And this is not that we've gotten into this discussion before because this is not a ceremony, man. We're gonna have ceremony elements to it because we're indigenous people and we represent ourselves. But this is not a let's go pray together. This is not that. And even if it was, like,
what is going down April 15th, Saturday, is a dope, hardcore, underground hip-hop event featuring some of the best hip-hop talent you could hear.
Indigenous. And
they're indigenous.
All of them are indigenous.
And it's an all-age event. And it's an all-age event. And it's an all-age event. And best believe, if you guys are hearing this or watching this, make sure you guys pull up. Saturday, April 15th, downtown LA. It's just going to be, it's going to be history in the making.
It's going to be a unified event.
If you've never heard of Jesus, check out Jesus. If you've never heard of Dakota Bear, check them out.
They're
probably the LA Natives community. We're just waiting for them to come out here.
Absolutely, and with open arms.
And also, I want to clarify. Nothing has been said against the event. All I saw was almost like a screenshot of. Question mark, so nothing has specifically been said against the event or you or any artists that are performing on it. I think it's more of a question like, what does Land Back mean?
Let me make it clear then. Cool. All right. You asked me, what does it mean, right? It does not mean a drafting of a contract, names being put on that contract to say and state that these are your lands or your territory. It does not mean any of that. It's a guy's record label, and he's traveling from Vancouver to Los Angeles and playing an event. That's why he's calling it Land Back in LA.
With the full support
of me, because I'm a hometown. I was born and raised here.
Of the podcast.
Right. So for people who really still having a hard time, right, that they don't see that, it would be like if what's his name? Kendrick Lamar was to travel to Canada and call it TDE and Toronto, right? TDE is his record label. Or if
exactly.
Jay-Z was to come to LA and then he calls it,
Rockefeller in LA.
Is it still? Yeah, Rock Nation LA, right?
Exactly.
Rock Nation LA.
Yeah.
So it would be that. Putting the record label name and then in LA.
Yes.
It just happens to be that Dakota Bear's record label is called Land Back.
And Dakota.
Did he have to put Land Back Records on there so you guys can know that?
Head on. And you know me, I know a lot of hip hop artists. I'm in the hip hop game. When I came across that Land Back Records, I was like, man, that's fucking genius, man. That's a dope name for a record label. I don't know. Head on.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too.
I think we gotta reevaluate what's important, man. Because what's important is that instead of saying I have an issue with your name of your event, instead of saying that, why don't we say, damn, that's a pretty big lineup of native artists together. It's not just Dakota Bear and all these mainstream artists that really don't say much. Everybody on that lineup says something deep and profound to heal our community.
And I guarantee whoever's complaining, whoever's making an issue about this, they go to the mall, they buy all that mainstream bullshit.
Yeah, so we don't know that, but still,
these are artists. These are artists, and these are brands that are fully independent. Pushing our own apparel,
it costs us money to do this.
Sweaters.
It costs us money to do this. But when you hate on something like this, it's like it's like slapping the cup out of the bum's hand. Boom! Like, dude, what are you doing here?
Well, yeah, I want to clarify again. I'm not saying anyone's hating or anyone has a real issue. It's just a question mark, right, that I came across. So what I'm thinking is that, and this is, again, just my personal perspective, they're just probably wondering, like, what does this mean? Because that person most likely is not a fan of Dakota Bear. Not that they don't like him. They probably just never heard his music. They don't know that he has a record label named Land Back. So they're just, unaware of what it is directing to. But I think also as locals, it would be good to communicate with each other, to ask each other, to give each other a phone call, like, hey, what's this about? As well as like, hey, come to the event.
Wait a minute.
But I'm sorry. I want to stop. I want to stop you right there, head on.
But why?
I want to stop you right there, head on. This is why we need to clear this up right now, guys. It's a hip hop event for profit.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, let's be real.
Right.
But
it's his record label.
But what profits are there to be made? Now, you could twist this and say, yeah, all these guys are doing is just throwing an event, trying to make money. Guys, it costs a lot of money to run hip-hop events and to put events together on a theme like this. It's such an important native theme where all people could gather and have one voice. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's what we should be celebrating.
Like, this is not a protest.
There's nothing to question
This
there.
is not a protest. This is a for-hire. We're bringing out artists.
Yes.
And they're raising money for their own
interests.
interests.
Said it better. Hedon said it the
their
best.
own interests only benefit the whole native community, in my opinion.
Well, it's like Hedon said. If TDE went to Canada, it'd be like TDE in Vancouver, right? And it's his concert. He's putting his artists on there, and he's going out there, and he's gonna go. This is no different. It's just that we don't have a major record label. We don't have no Warner Brothers or large distribution companies. We're doing this all independently, and I hope
this is no hit or shot to organizers that do put up, I don't know, vocally driven protest events and feature artists. I respect those organizers completely because I believe in this hardcore native community of people just having just real strict opinions. They're just not in the environment that this is a cut of cloth from. It's a hip hop show.
Right. No one's trying. We're
not checking in with nobody when it comes to organizing hip hop events. Am I right, Zero?
Hey, not even Swifty Blue. You gotta check in with Swifty Blue.
Of course, I need to check in with Swifty Blue.
Nah, bro, but I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it because it isn't. There's no big deal out of it, and you're not even giving us a chance to say how we're gonna honor it.
But I
Like,
do,
what if we
hear
put
head on out.
What if we put a
hearing-
big old banner there and we say we honor all the traditional territories of the Tongva,
But I
the
hear-
Chumash, and the Quiche.
But I hear what Heron's talking about. He's talking about, we can't ignore the fact that there's people out there that actually consider this a big deal. Am I right, Heron? Like, I respect that. I completely respect that. And they want answers on like, who's behind it? What's the messaging about? Can we make sure, as a Native community in LA, we all come into agreement that it's for this cause?
I think because of what Zero brings up a lot, that we are the prisoners of war. We are the aftermath of colonization. With that comes a lot of trauma, right? So with that trauma, again, we have a lot of wounds within each other that whenever we see someone say anything Native, anything, that it's relevant towards Native issues, we do bring up our trauma in a way that we concern ourselves. Sometimes maybe in a way that's in a good way, and then sometimes maybe in a way where it might even harm each other indirectly, right? So I'll give you an example. Like if I go to a powwow, right, and this is just my personal experience. If I go to a powwow and then I find out that powwow is a veterans powwow, and I'm like, oh, why do they have the U.S. flag? Why are they why are they promoting it? Like, it's like, aren't we supposed to be against it? Like, isn't that the enemy? That's my experience, right? That's my perspective. So I might speak out of line to some elders who are actually veterans, right? And they feel strongly opposite to my own opinion. And they feel that, no, they served as Navajo code breakers, or code talkers. So they feel different than I do, right? But I might be harming them and indirectly just with my opinion. And so they might be doing the same back to me. But we're both victims of the same colonization that has us thinking this way.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
That's what I'm trying to put into light. Exactly what you were trying to describe is what I'm trying to put into light. There is no land back. And even if the land back came back in the way we wanted it to be, it wouldn't be in a written way. It would be like, oh, we're free to go on into the wild now. We're free to reconnect to Mother Earth. We're free to live and go fish and come back to our communities, or we're free to kind of roam these lands without anybody putting handcuffs on us or saying that we're in the wrong place. Is that what that means? Because that's what land back means to me. Land back doesn't mean that I get contracts and I get to put apartment buildings and build homes and strip malls because this is my land and I got it back.
Right.
And you understand? Like, to me, that land back means a little bit different things. It's not, it's a record label, man. I would never offend anybody. I've said this a lot. Like, I wouldn't never offend anybody just to offend them or do something like, let's put this to make them mad.
And again, I think this also is not just.
Are those the comments?
On
oh, damn.
Yeah, just for some reason.
Again,
Go on, head on. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this is directly just on you or the event. I think that Land Back has grown into such a huge campaign that it comes with a lot of attachments now. For example, you see white people talking about land back, and you're not so sure if, like, is that a good thing that white people are talking about it?
Yes, it's absolutely good.
And then there's another angle.
There's
another angle we could approach this with too, because people will hold us accountable. Zero, we are a platform. Yes, we throw successful events.
Sure,
it's proven, right? Zero, since day one, all of our LA Natives events, they're always cracking. Am I right, head on?
Right.
I mean, yeah, there's that attachment as well.
So people hold us accountable, and I embrace that the most. Ultimately, because we are promoters, we are apparently making a statement, putting out something of art That's going to take place April 15th, Saturday in
April
downtown
15th,
LA.
man. April 15th, and everybody's welcome. The Quiche is welcome. The Tongvas are welcome. The Shumash are welcome. The Africans are welcome.
I expect
the
everyone
Asians
to
are
come
welcome.
out.
The Filipinos are welcome. The white people are welcome. Everybody's welcome, man.
The Mexicans, the Mexicas.
The Mexicas are especially welcome. I mean, come on, bro. Like, let's look. The springtime is the time where, you know, new life begins, man. And that's why I think the practice of the Nemotemi and letting go of things of the previous year, you know, we just got to go back to our old ways. And when we concentrate on implementing our old ways, then all these debates and issues, they kind of fall through the wayside.
I just feel like, you know, conversations like this, I just think it's so, it's so hurtful to the kids out there that are like, so are you trying to say you're taking away how I see what land back is? Allow the kid to imagine for himself if he's a native or a lost native, just thinking about that term land back, and he sees it on a flyer, and a hip hop flyer, and he's like, yo, that's dope. You know, let him absorb it
in his own way.
In his own way.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
So are these people
you know,
are these people trying to define that, or like is there a certain line you have to walk and say, okay, this is what land back should mean, guys. Hip hop shouldn't be involved.
Now,
blah 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 blah.
I guess there's a little bit of clarity right there too. Like, now take this example. Say I go to City Hall and I'm saying, thank you so much for giving us the land back. I'm taking it back in the name of the Mexica people for the city of Los Angeles. That's something different, right? Don't you think, Caron?
Yeah.
That's completely different.
Be,
that would be disrespectful. That would completely out of order. You know what I would do if someone wanted to give me an award from the city of Los Angeles? I would ask and call the Quiche. I'd call the representative of the Shumash. I'd call the representative, and I say, give them the award. You know, give them the award. They need the light. Not me.
Yeah, I think a simple.
That's different. But when when we put together a concert in the benefit of the community, for the love of the community, for all your little chavalitos to come and go, damn, that's a guy I want to look up to. I want to look up to those dudes. What are they talking about? The creator? What are they talking about? The buffalo, the thunder? I want to be a part of that. That's what we're doing. Now, if I go to an official city or some Senate or some whatevers, I would never go there. But I'm just saying, because I don't believe in that. Even if they gave me a fucking presidential whatever the fuck,
and
I would not go because I don't believe in their system. Their system is whack. It's racist. It's thievery. It's not even legit. So I don't even want any of their paperwork. They could fucking have their land back and their contracts and their fucking everything. Because I'm connected to the water. Personally, I'm connected to the water. Personally, I'm connected to the sun. Personally, that's what it means to take ownership of these elements of nature.
And I love what Priscilla Gonzalez says. She says, all nations should know about your event by now, and that you guys mean no disrespect or harm. This isn't the first show we've done.
No,
right?
It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think like a lot of people know about how the West was won, right? Like the big Ice Cube and all the big West Coast hip hop artists. If you compare to that, that's what that concert is named, right? How the West was won.
Right.
This is just the indigenous version of that called Land Back, right?
Look,
so that's a good comparison.
If it was a whole bunch of white people running this event and they had an event called Land Back, best believe there would be crickets. No one would be attacking them.
No, they'd
That's
be
how
like,
I feel.
oh, wow, that's such a noble cause. Yeah, let's give it back to the natives, And look, let me clarify another thing, too. Everyone that does disagree with this flyer, I love you, man. I love you. I do. I really do. I really love you. I love you for disagreeing with me. I love you for voicing yourself. Because you have the right to do that. No one's taking that away. This is a record label. And they're coming to Los Angeles. That's all. Bring your family. April 15th. We're going to fucking rock it. We're gonna fucking really rock it there.
Jesus is a star, man.
Absolutely. So is Dakota Bear.
Dakota Bear is a star. The Sober Junkie is a star. Zero is a star. Hey, head on, you see it. Zero kills it every time, right? So.
Oh yeah, man, he brings that energy.
Absolutely. We need to come out, call all of our natives, all the Mexica, all the homies, all the brothers and sisters. Come out to this event Saturday, April 15th, downtown LA. I think the tickets are they available live on?
I think the
online.
Link, yeah, I think on. I don't
Eventbrite,
know. Yeah, it's at event. It's an Eventbrite.
There it is. Tickets on Eventbrite.
Exactly. Search Land Back.
Shout out to Sub One. Shout out to
Sub
Word
One.
First.
Hey, Sub One. Shout out to Sub One. He killed it at the Mexica New Year.
Word First says, I don't understand the problem, but if it gives us the ability to explain it to someone who legitimately wants to know what land back means, then I welcome the attention. That's exactly, he just nailed it right there.
Yeah, because we're bringing up issues that are sensitive to people because we are prisoners of war. We are the children who lost in the battlefield. That's okay.
Well,
that's okay.
Ruben
That's okay.
Crow Feather says, from what I've heard here, it's not a problem. It's just a question was asked. But, with our experience, that question turns into like a
canceling. That question is very dangerous.
And we've experienced it.
We have experienced that. That's not. No, you asked me face to face. Maybe you know what I mean. Like, hey, bro, what did you really mean by this event? And did you mean land back? Like, what do you mean, like land back? Like land back to you, or and I'll give you a complete answer. Again,
I think at this point it's just more of a question, and so I wanted to call in to just kind of, because I know where it's coming from. At least I was assuming, but it looks like I'm correct, that it has to do more with the record label. It has to do more with the campaign that Dakota Bear has going on his clothing brand.
Absolutely.
Which he puts land back on everything. And I love wearing it because I walk proudly with it, and I walk into any establishment and people just stare. I could tell the ones that get bothered with it. They can't. It's like their eyes just glued to my chest. They can't stop reading.
Because it scares them. It scares them that we mean land back, like when they came here and they said this is our land, right? When they came here and they said this is our land. Look, pull up that video. I'm gonna show what happened when they came. Okay, this is what happened when they came. And I'm gonna prove a point on why we don't mean land back in the same way that you think we mean land back. Because when you want land back in that way, in the Wasishu way, in the way of the white man, it's this. Play that fucking video.
Let me see.
See if we can pull it up here. I reposted it on my story, but I want to show people in LA Natives what they meant by land. That this is our land. Pull that back to. Okay, before you play it, I'm going to set it up for you. When people say, this is my land, see, like when I say, this is my land, that means I have a relationship with this land. That means I went up and down this coast with love, respect. I didn't take things. I didn't take too much things. Now, when they say land, this is my land, play that video. This is what they mean. Okay, pause it. Just pause it. Did you hear that? 38 men were hung in front of a crowd. Like in front of a live crowd. Everybody gather around. Look, we're going to hang 38 men. And this is the one that they wrote about. We're not talking about the ones they didn't write about, right? Maybe where they hung 200 men. Maybe when they hung babies and teenagers and adolescents. It's genocide.
There were thousands of
It was genocide, though, Heron. It was genocide to a level that we cannot comprehend because it doesn't exist anymore in this way. It doesn't exist in a platform where everybody's eating.
Grave robbers, including Dr. William Mayo, dug up their bodies and used them in medical experiments.
Some people said that they didn't hear it.
They can't hear the video.
William Mayo, the founder of the prestigious. Ever heard of Dr. William Mayo, the founder of the prestigious Mayo Clinic? Okay, let me tell you an interesting story about this guy. In 1862, after the U.S.-Dakota War had ended, the United States executed 38 Dakota men in the largest mass hanging in American history. But whatever happened to the bodies of the dead Dakota men? Well, they were buried in a mass grave. Grave robbers, including Dr. William Mayo, dug up their bodies and used them in medical experiments. Dr. Mayo dragged one of the dead Dakota men back to his office. His name was Cutnose. He boiled down Cutnose's skull, he skinned his body, and he used his skeleton in anatomical studies. He also allowed his children to play with Cutnose's skull. After extensive research, Cutnose's skull and some of his body parts were later recovered and given back to the Dakota people in 1998. All I can do is shake my head. Have you ever heard of Dr.
That's deep.
Were they able to hear? Can we get confirmation that people heard? Okay.
They just heard that.
All right.
Yeah, people were able to hear.
Okay. So we can't comprehend that kind of violence. We lived through a lot of violence, but how many times have us or our grandparents or our parents ever seen 40 people get hanged? How many stories have you heard from your grandpa that happened? You know what I mean? Okay, so what would happen if, let's say, I don't know, Venezuela, or not even, let's say Italy decides to hang 40 people live? How would the earth react to that? It would be like, with social media, it would be like insane.
Right.
We're not used to that type of violence.
Yeah.
And that type of violence has put us in the position that we're in now.
One of the
prisoners of war. This is where I want to make a point. Prisoners of war. What happens to prisoners of war? They get hung like that. Tortured. And what happens to their children? They get robbed and indoctrinated and put a Bible in their hand and say, learn it or else. We're dealing with a lot of trauma. When we say we're dealing with trauma, we're dealing with trauma.
And all this falls under the umbrella of the term land back, does it not?
Absolutely, because what we mean land back is totally different what they think we mean land back means.
Head on. You have to admit, land back means a lot to a lot of people, man. There's so many angles you could go about it, right?
For sure. Conversations where certain natives feel that it's very like black and white, that like they feel that when we say land back, we should only be speaking of the land that we come from, but we shouldn't be speaking in behalf of the land we are not from.
But that's the same thing. But that's the same thing that the white man does, right? Don't you think it's the same thing? Like, in other words, if I get you right? Like, if I get you correctly, then tell me if I got it right or wrong. But I'm only supposed to be thinking about the land that I think I come from my mom, who really doesn't really know where we come from. I'm supposed to like that land. I'm only supposed to be talking about that land, that land that I don't even know where it's at. You know? And just because you know, where it's at, just because you know where your land's at, I can't say land back because I have to be talking about a land that I don't know where it exists. But I know I'm native.
But people feel that way, Israel.
I know they do. And I'm trying to tell them that land back does not mean that. Land back does not mean fucking hanging 40 people to say that this is my land. It means...
I also think that...
Go on.
I also think that because it's somewhat of a new concept, right? It's not like AIM in 1970 were, saying land back during that time. That was not their big campaign. So because it is kind of a new term, we're learning what does it mean to, with the consent, having the consensus at large, right? Not just one group of people compared to another group of people. We're collecting data from all natives and all indigenous people. What does this mean at large? Now, my idea is that if you look at it through the colonized conditioned lens, then yeah, you're going to think, you should only be allowed, or you should only refer to the land that your origins come from when you speak of land back, and not land that you don't come from. But for me, you're building borders, you're building lines, right, which is very colonial. So if we look at it from the indigenous perspective and we think of Turtle Island is what today would be North America. So that's already taking away the Canada border, the U.S.-Mexico border, and every state border. You're now just open to, when I say land back, the first thing I think of is Turtle Island and incomplete, which means all Canada, all United States,
okay, wait,
all Mexico.
Let me pause you right there because I want you to answer another thing. Okay, so you're erasing borders, but what else does land back mean to you?
It doesn't just speak of the land itself, but of the understanding of our relationship we should be having with the land, right? Because that's something they took away from us too.
So then it doesn't mean it doesn't mean a charter that's written up that says these lands from this area to that area are your lands.
But look, my stance my stance is with native tendencies. He says land back is not an exclusively owned term by any tribe or any displaced people.
A whole.
That's how I feel.
A whole. Because you know what land back means? Land back does not mean, it means hands out of the elites, hands out of the nobilities, hands out of the monarchies. You don't have the land no more. That's what land back means. Why? Because I have my own way of putting my hand on that earth. I have my own way of getting my ass up at 6 a.m. to see that sun. It's a sovereign connection.
I just would think, if they just had another second to actually dissect the flyer and understand that we have to embrace these Canadian brothers of ours.
Yeah.
When they come to Los Angeles, who cares about what you think and about, how you feel the theme should go, man? Like, these are Canadian up and coming rising stars. Come on.
We should show them love. We show them love. And
every
we show them
LA
respect.
native, should be coming out to this event. And if you follow that red road or you live a native, way, you should come out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the event to come to.
It's beyond hip hop right now.
Yeah, it's not a commercial event. It's not something that is mainstream or that we're trying to make cool. It's a way of reconnecting because you're going to be in front of artists who do put their hand on the earth and feel a certain way.
Right here, Killery Beloved says, land back means returned to the righteous caretakers of these sacred lands.
Absolutely. That's another good one.
But for people who want to make it exclusive, stay away from us.
Yeah. No, it's not that. It's not that. I'm not going to write a charter and, do, go to these ceremonies that these fake landowners, try to convince us that they hold any kind of authority or any kind of say, because they don't. It's all done under the color of law. It's all done completely twisted.
And guess what, guys?
And only for their benefit.
And guess what, guys? That term alone, land back, and with the rejuvenation of that keyword and hashtag, Dakota Bear is on the forefront of how that even started. Am I right, Zero?
Absolutely.
That's another thing people have
really
to recognize.
Coined it.
Am I right?
He recoined that whole thing, and that's cool, man. That's his version of his voice.
I for sure say he's in the forefront. So if the other artists you've had in a earlier episode, shoot this guy. Yes, that one. Yes, he has that one track, "Take It All Back." That's a dope ass track.
Yeah.
So
when I think of,
I'm not sure who coined it.
I know, but when I think of hashtag land back, I think of, when it comes to an artist, I think of Dakota Bear.
Yeah. And he deserves it, man.
Who else do you think of?
He's the one that pumped it. He's the one that
comes
pumped
to
it,
artists with that key, with that hashtag.
Again, him and the other artist, Shoe.
That's right.
Yeah, but I mean, he really pushes that phrase land back, and to me it's a cool phrase, and he should run with it, and we should all kind of just support what he's doing. And if you have a different version of it, if you want to put your paperwork in for something different, then that's your version of it. But we all have a sovereign version with it. We all have a sovereign version with everything. Yeah. Huh?
Yeah, and I think this is actually a healthy conversation to have. What does land back mean to you and to us and to them? It's a good question. It's a good podcast to have. It's a good episode, because again, we're collecting data from a larger consensus, to have a better understanding of what land back means. There's a page I follow, and they're from South America. They're from like the Peru area, and they talk about land back. But to them, land back was literally getting into Bolivia's government and, having Evo Morales recognize them as the official original First Nation, right? Mm-hmm. So now Bolivia is a plural nation, so now they have multiple nations within one nation. I think that's a great answer to move forward as going from colonialism, capitalism, to now also including socialism and indigenous people. I think it's a good way. So that page I follow, they talk about land back, but they have their own way of how they're going about it. And they're literally going into government and demanding land back to them,
And I've had this conversation.
And another artist that I think of, just like how Christopher Martinez says, is Natani Means. That's another one.
Oh yeah, he's
another
dope.
Big artist right there.
Yeah, and then he's lineage, bro. He has like, big Russell blood, Russell memes.
But go ahead, Zero.
He's like my spiritual like guide, like a mentor. But we're all one family, man, and I'm glad that you said that was a good conversation, because no one got heated. I'm sure that the individual has, and we have to make it clear that you have the right to your opinion, man. Whatever your opinion is about land back, man, I know it's not the same. My version of land back is not the same as anyone else's on that chat, anyone else in this planet, because I have my own relationship with the earth. That's what land back means to me. Cities and pavements and buildings and houses and hospitals don't change the true nature of nature. Once you get out of the city and you start going into that mountain, you'll start to feel the difference, and that's what land back means. It's having a personal relationship with the land, sovereign in a sovereign way. If we all had, let's say, for instance, we all had a sovereign relationship, like we all treated the earth a certain way, each and every one of us. Like maybe when you walk down the street, you pick up trash. Maybe when, just in your own way, you have your own relationship with the very being that gives you everything you need, is Mother Earth.
I agree with that. That's one thing I work on a lot too, my personal relationship with the land and understanding the land better by, the hikes I take, the explorations I take from hills to mountains to rivers, creeks, the ocean, beaches, deserts, just having that connection from anytime from the, sunrise ceremony to sunset ceremony to midnight ceremony. Just being out there, and ceremony just means just being out there by yourself in prayer and, understanding of the elements and nature around you and having that respect for the land. So that's what it means for me,
Good, and that's amazing. That's an amazing connection. It's sovereign. It doesn't rely on a group's cohesive agreement.
And guess what, guys? Guess what, Head On? It takes a hip hop event for this topic to even come about. See how beautiful that is, Head On?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree, man. Like this was a good conversation, you know, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm glad that you brought us, that you made us aware of someone maybe not completely disagreeing, but kind of questioning what does it mean, and we clarified it. It's a record label,
and the chat is lit. Zero. A lot of people are giving us what they feel what Landback is.
Good.
Like everyone's in the chat.
Man, that makes me happy, man, because no one has a right to tell you what that means.
It's their own relationship.
It's their
with
own
the land.
relationship. Everyone has their own relationship with Mother Earth. Just like
now head on.
Like, to tell me one thing.
So
you have a mom, right?
I would think yes.
Okay. Do you have brothers?
Yes.
How many? Just
I
one or
have
two?
3 brothers.
3 brothers.
Yeah.
Do all of you have the same relationship with your mom?
Right? No.
Absolutely not. You probably, do certain things for your mom, and your brother does another thing for your mom, and it's all a different relationship because we're all different. So we'll all kind of see value in certain things. Like for me, trees are very important to me. They're super important to me. Like they're my greatest teachers. Trees they're just very close to me. But it's not the same for you.
Now, head on. Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Are there people out there in the society that are not allowed to use the term land back?
I'll give you an example. So I do believe there are people who should not be allowed. And my answer in short are non-natives when their intentions are not to give the land back to indigenous people of somewhere in Turtle Island, right? Maybe they don't have to be from that specific area, but somewhere in Turtle Island. And the reason I say this is because there are individuals who have a hidden agenda that comes with either only profiting or, owning it in a way that's not in a good way. I attended a meeting in Long Beach, and it was about a project that's going to take place. So it's a union project, and I'm part of a union. So I was there with my union, and this white guy goes up there, and he's against the project because his company didn't get elected to be part of it. So there's no financial incentive for him. And this guy brought up indigenous people and land back. And he's like, how dare you build on this piece of land? The indigenous people from here will not stand for it. The indigenous people here will protest you. And, this is not a good way to go about, the land. And I'm like, who the fuck is this white dude? Like, I don't see no indigenous people standing with him. I've never heard of him. So then when it was my time to speak, I go up there and I say, it's interesting that, non-indigenous people speak of indigenous issues. So I'm like, first of all, as an indigenous person, I will recognize the land in which we're standing on. So then I recognize the land, right? And the kinship of the land. Then I said, I think as an indigenous person that this is a project which is going to be pro-union, which is good because there are indigenous people who work construction, myself included, and I look forward to being a part of this project. Boom. End of point. But the point that I made that non-indigenous people are speaking of indigenous issues, but only when it affects their pocket. They're not speaking of kids in cages. They're not saying how those kids are indigenous to the land and should be excluded from immigration and border patrol, concentration camps. That's not what they're speaking of because that's not part of their agenda. So I do believe there are people that shouldn't be speaking on it. I also believe there's people like the Wabo movement who are claiming to be indigenous when they are clearly not indigenous, and they want land back and their own twisted agenda, right? They want their 40 acres and mules, which is crazy to me. Because even in that reparation, I do believe that people should be, given reparations if they were ever oppressed and enslaved. But land back should only go to indigenous people and indigenous lineage people. That's my belief.
That's deep.
But what if those indigenous lineage people are some greedy real estate people? Or people that want to build a factory and they're willing to sell that land by the water that they have.
Now, head on.
Because they want to be rich.
But I just heard recently, I did read.
It's like we have this romanticized version of what land back means to indigenous hands.
Now, head on. If you could confirm this, just recently on the news and in the newspaper, I watched and read that the Tongva community, I guess there was some land given back to them by the city of Los Angeles. Can you confirm this, Aaron?
I don't know.
There is, so I don't know about Los Angeles. There is a piece of land that is in the talks of being given back. It's, I don't know if it's LA County, but it's closer to Orange County. And that hopefully that goes through, because that would be good.
But what does that really mean,
would
head on
be-
to you? Like, getting the land back from, let's say, Orange County or LA County, right? Right, Zero?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for example,
what are the
there's a big
restrictions?
fight right now.
Yeah, like, can you live there? Can you build a house there? Can we all go there? Like, I don't know.
Well, this is the indigenous perspective, right? So it depends what that site means to the indigenous people. So if that site, for example, the one that I'm speaking of, is a sacred site, meaning that there are barriers there. There were bones, fossils found of ancestors. And the indigenous perspective is to leave it alone, to not mess with it.
Yeah.
But the white people, they want to build shit on top of it, and they want to dig it out, right? So they're fighting for that piece of land back to leave it alone. Let those ancestors rest where they are. Mm-hmm. So that would be the purpose of that land back, that it's a sacred site where the people can go for prayer, and not build on top of it, and not continue this concrete jungle.
Until someone richer, someone who wants, like, let's say, okay, I'll tell you one thing. What if Apple wanted that land? Right?
I would not. I'm not part of that lineage who ancestors are buried there.
No, but I'm telling you. But my point of what I'm trying to say is that if Apple wanted that land, they'll take it. They'll claim eminent domain. They'll claim.
What do you mean is what you're trying to say is that they will find a loophole with the politicians at hand, and they would find a way to get it.
And that's my point. That's my point. You can't play poker with a person who's a master at poker. Like, you know what I mean? He cheats at poker. He's so good at poker. He knows you play with his deck and you play with his cards and you play with his dealer and and then you try to make a deal with him or you try to play this game with him and he's always going to win. He's always going to win because you're playing his game. I don't play his game.
This is also good. This is also a good opportunity to protect Oak Flat. Do you know about that?
Yeah, let's protect Oak Flats. Let's protect anything that's in our hands that we can reconnect in a good way with. But let's move deeper. We have to move deeper than making deals with people who have lied to you. Let me ask you this. This is so that we can understand what land back means, or any kind of little land that they give you back. Like, oh, look, we're going to give you these 3 acres because that's the Tongva land now, or that's the Quiche land now, or that's the Chumash land, or that's the Lakota land, or this is the Dene land. We're going to give you these 3 little acres right here because there's some dead people there, right? You're trying to conversate with someone who we just seen a video murdered, hung people for entertainment. Like, these guys are just, when I'm talking about capitalists, I'm talking about these people that just want the land. Who do you think? Do you think it was the soldiers that got the land when they did that? When they took it away from indigenous people, do you think the soldiers were the ones that benefited from it? Hello?
Well, what soldiers would you be referring to?
Like I'm saying, like in Manifest Destiny, when they came to take the land from the natives, right? They came and we just gave an example of what happened. They hung Apache. Did the soldiers get the land? No, the soldiers did not get the land. You know who got the land? The people, the rich people. The rich people who sent the poor soldiers to go fight and go put them into danger so that we can keep the land.
They got the best parts of the land, but their campaign was so desperate that they wanted to occupy. So in order for Doctrine of Discovery and in order for Manifest Destiny to take order, it needed the majority of population to predominantly be of European descent. So therefore, they did a campaign of kill the Indian, save the man, right? So then that's why they were giving $5 a head to scalp an Indian, because that would bring infestation, an invasion of white people west. to then occupy those lands. And they didn't care where they were occupying. They were like, as long as you're taking up the space, now we can call it ours. They did the same thing with the U.S. and Mexico war when they told Mexico, hey, it's mostly our people occupying these lands. How can it be Mexico if it's our people occupying the land? And that's how easily they took the rest of the land with that argument. So back then, that's why you have the gold rush. The guy you shared right now that did the TikTok video, he also talks about the gold rush and what happened in 1949 and 1849, and that's why he is against the 49ers, because the 49ers literally represent that scalping natives, and putting them, enslaving them.
And that wasn't not too long ago, right?
That's not even. That's not even. It wasn't
that too long ago.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like, this fool is like this oppressor, this system, this understanding is not about like making deals with them, or they're ever going to come to a place where they understand. So we should never be surprised that they do very racist things and they do very evil things. Killing babies for their hair to cash it in for $25 is beyond evil, right? But I put a post up. I want to give away something. As the crowd can the crowd give me like thumbs up? I want to give away a new shirt, a new design. I've been coming up with it, and it's relevant to what we're talking about here. But I put a story up today, and if anybody could tell me, can text in the comments what my story was, right? And I posted this video. When the first one to do it, Armando, they're the one that's going to get the new merchandise that I'm going to drop. And these are very exclusive merchandise. I'm wearing something right now, right? It has the serpents. I'm doing other things differently. I'm putting a lot of symbols on them, and the symbols coincide with certain energies. So I'm putting a lot of thought into my new clothing. And whoever gets them and I see them at the show, there might be another extra treat. So I'm trying to treat them like NFTs, because they're going to be all one of a kind. There's not going to be very many of them. At the most, 13 or 20. We're going to keep them in the sacred numbers. And my job is to just come up with as many designs as I can in different ways. But I put a post up in my story, and I'm going to give away a free shirt. And if they type, anybody who types what I posted, just the words, right? It said blank, blank, blank. There it is.
Which one?
The other one, that one. Okay, I want the first person to type what I typed right there, and then I'll explain it. Because it's relevant to what you're talking about, Heron. Like, everything that we're talking about is, we have to break these cycles and understandings of what our perspective is on land back, or these atrocities that happen to us through world history. There's a reason why world history is rewritten and the narrative is shoved down our throat to hide all these atrocities. These are super, super bad ones that no one in this planet would ever tolerate in this time. Like they're getting away with, like, dropping bombs now, because it's not so public and anyways, our perspective is very important during this time, and we need to be sharp. We need to be incredibly sharp when it comes to our perspective, because if we're more in a group, if we have a group mentality, then we're sheep. And then we're going to be herded to whatever direction the narrative has shaped us, right? And they shaped us in this very inferior way, where we're inferior to things, and that's why the wobble movement is coming up, because they feel like, well, wait a minute, we're the original people of this continent. Our people were here longer than the natives. And that division is just confusion. Because when we tap into the real source of energy, when we tap into Mother Earth, and we tap into the water and the fire and have our own personal relationship, our own sovereign understanding, then if each of us do that, then we all start to dig a root into this earth. And if we can collectively root into this earth in a sovereign way, then we will erase ourselves from being in the herd mentality. We're no longer a herd. Our spirits have come back. And the spirits of taking care of your family, not destroying the earth or the environment around you, that's the time we're in now. You know? There's no longer a time where we have to try to make a deal with a thief and a liar and a rapist. He's put us in a position of being prisoners of war. At least that's what he thinks. I'm no prisoner of anything. I walk freely on this universe. And one day, my best friend, my guide, death, will tap me on my shoulder and tell me it's time to go. But until then, I will continue to wake up at 6 a.m. and I will continue to greet the sun because he puts me on time. And with that time, I create a relationship with the rest of my day. And the rest of my day is hearing the birds in the springtime, taking a long hike and understanding and feeling everything around you, looking at the hawk fly into the tree. These are very personal, sovereign relationships that I have. And we all need to create those. So we'll see.
Head on. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah,
man.
brother.
Yo, this was a very enlightening conversation. Head on, with this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for
land
bringing
back
up
thing.
the issue. I didn't even know. I didn't want to pay
Much
any
needed
attention
conversation, right? Head on.
Yeah, I think it's needed just to clear it out. If someone can maybe send it to that person who is still wondering what the event means, and then they can have a better understanding, better clarification that it has to do more with the record label and the name of the campaign that the artist is presenting, rather than a political idea behind it.
Exactly.
And I think that that would at least give them a better understanding. And then maybe they could write their paper about other events and not specifically this one. And,
I don't care if they write about this one. I would welcome it. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, whatever. I don't care, man. It just really doesn't make sense if we're trying to change our perspective.
Yeah, when it comes to a hip hop event, we don't need anyone's validation. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
it's a hip hop event.
It's just a hip hop event. Brought to you by a record label called Land Back. Dakota Bears record.
Back to a point you made earlier that you're not a prisoner. You don't see yourself as a prisoner of anything. When I came out of jail for a bit, I was still in prison mentally, and I saw myself. Like I was so in that trauma of being locked up and not having true freedom, that even when I came out, the body, it took a while for me to be able to run again, because the body, when you're confined in a small 6-man cell for a period of time, your body gets confused, and it believes it can only walk within 6 feet. So when you try to run across the street, your body does not react. And they had told me this. They're like, hey, first thing you try to do when you get out, try to run across the street and watch your body. It's not going to do it. I was like, what? That's crazy. They're like, you try and you'll see. And I did, right? It was like, I was almost like too curious to not do it. So I tried to run across the street and my body did not react. And I was like, what the hell? Like, and it took me a while to be able to run again. But also mentally, just the way I looked at myself, I was so scared to get locked up again. I was so scared to fuck up my probation and get locked up again. So that's when I really understood this idea of institutionalized mentality, right? And then from there, I understood that there's prisons that we build around us that goes beyond the physical world, right? Sometimes we are in prison mentally. Sometimes we are in prison emotionally, where our emotions are so locked up because we were hurt at some point that we are scared to open up our hearts. We are in prison sometimes spiritually, where we join some religion or some spiritual system or practice that did us wrong, or it just failed us, that then we're scared to believe in anything. or we're sometimes imprisoned by our echo chamber or our own environment, right? Where we have a hard time of having a growth mentality and we get fixated on a fixed mentality. And I think as, indigenous people that are trying to reconnect, we are learning how to call back to the kinship of not just the land we come from, but also the kinship of our own bloodlines, our own lineages, and our own indigenous practices, that we are fighting this imprisonment that was installed in us since birth, right? Because we were given an alien and foreign environment that we learned how to navigate it, but it never felt like home. And now that we're like, oh, I know what home is, but we're now learning how to navigate this new perspective. And by doing so, we're also fighting this imprisonment of the past, the conditioning, the brainwashing, the indoctrination, all of that. So there's other imprisonments that sometimes even our own friends and family can wrap us up in, And so sometimes I think that we get too caught up in our own ideas and we imprison ourselves with that instead of just listening to each other out. Like, hey, let me hear you out. Maybe I took the wrong perspective on this. Let me listen to you. And, just agreeing with the 4 agreements. Let's not assume. Let's not take it personal, and we'll be better relatives that way. That's just my ending point to this conversation.
Thank you, Head On.
Thank you, Head On.
Man, amazing episode, man. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, share the video, comment on the video, like the video, hit the notification icon. It would really help. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Man, Zero, great conversation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Remember, April 15th, we're going to be rocking it. Jesus, Dakota Bear, Sober Junkie, myself.
And many more.
And many, many more. Come join the family. We have to remember that the Spanish Inquisition didn't end. It didn't. It just crossed the ocean. And then it became the doctrine of discovery. And then that doctrine of discovery kept coming and coming, and it turned into manifest destiny. But it was all done under the principle and authority of one. And I'll leave it up to you to figure out what that one authority was that gave everybody the permission to do this to people, to rape them, imprison them, and keep them into perpetual slavery forever, just because they were different than them or they didn't believe in the same things that they did. I'll leave it up to you to see which one it is, but it didn't stop with that Spanish Inquisition. It kept going. It kept getting bigger, and it just changed its name, but it had the same outcome. It affected the same people. They just changed the name. So, and if you think that it's over with Manifest Destiny and that they're done, think again. We need to be sharp. We need to be sovereign. We need to be aware. And we need to be at our full potential. And to do that is a lifelong journey. So I pray, or I put my intention, I don't even want to say pray, I'm putting an intention out to the LA Native community to go deeper within yourself and put your hand on the floor. Forgive yourself and ask her to forgive you. Then wake up early, at least once this week, and see if you can catch the sun's first ray. Connect in that way. And land back is inevitable. We'll see you next Wednesday. We'll see you April 15th.